So thank you and a warm welcome to all the panelists. The good thing about the delay that we've had in starting the session is that we had some very interesting conversations going in the speakers lounge. I wish we could have recorded some of those and just played it. It would have made it much more exciting for all of you. But anyway, we'll start with our session. A lot has been said about India's economic growth and various drivers of the growth like digitization, India stack, infrastructure-led growth, China plus one, and so on, the urbanization, etc. But, and also I think Ajay, the CEO, highlighted in the earlier sessions about how India is poised to become the third largest e-commerce market in the world, how there are 12 million retail outlets in India compared to just 1 million in the US. The retail sector is contributing 35% of the GDP, much more to jobs, about data speed of India being the best, low cost of data, and Manoj has been part of that revolution as part of the telecom industry. But, you know, just to put all of this in perspective, on the other hand, there are also some startling numbers which I want to put forward. The e-commerce penetration for all the growth is still 8.5% of the population in India. So the 1 billion remaining population of India is yet to be harnessed. 10% only of the jobs are in the formal and organized sector of the country. The rest is all in the unorganized sector. If you analyze the wallet spent on online transactions, 50% of that spent is only contributed to by 3% of the population, 2 to 3%. And that's where everyone is competing for. And finally, 85% of the population from a business startup perspective is really unmonetizable. Can we increase that pie of monetization segment of the society? Will India continue to grow that by adding middle class, or are there risks to it? What are investors doing looking at all this changing environment? So to unpack all this, we have an exciting panel. I'll first start to set the ball rolling with Vikram. So Vikram, as a VC fund manager, from your perspective, how are you seeing the startup landscape? There has been a lot of coverage about startups facing a tough time last 2 years in funding, in valuations, and trying to solve problems. What are you seeing? And are they really, is the innovation story still alive?
Oh, thank you, Shalabh. And there are some very, very interesting numbers that you mentioned. I'll quote a few more. The number of registered, DPIIT registered startups has really substantially grown now. We're talking about 120,000 DPIIT registered startups, and that number has actually substantially grown even in the last 2 years, despite the fact that the total number of funding in late stage especially, that has come down. And I think there's a reason. We've seen what has happened after COVID. 2021 was a year, a lot of liquidity came into the system, interest rates went up, a lot of drying up of liquidity happened in 2022, 23. Of course, late stage deals stopped happening. But I think good entrepreneurs, smart entrepreneurs, good businesses, profitable businesses who were staying put, doing well despite lack of funding, they've actually done really well in this market. And I think those entrepreneurs have continued to receive funding. And we ourselves have invested close to 600 crores in the last 12 months. So investors like us actually have seen the opportunity to make investments during this time because the valuations got corrected quite substantially. In fact, we've seen almost 30 to 40% correction of valuations since 2021. And I think we're going to see that trend to continue at least till the first half of this year. We are expecting that to change or improve post-elections, and maybe June onwards, you will see substantial rounds happening.
So your outlook remains, you are still bullish as
Yes.
a long-term story. Okay, thanks. Deepening that conversation further, Vinay, if I can come to you, you have been part of the Inflection Point Ventures. What advice are you giving to startups for graduating from idea stage to Series A and beyond, particularly in the consumer tech and e-commerce space? That's where most of the interest is in this audience.
Sure. I think the advice doesn't change from a consumer tech to non-consumer tech. I think when you go into seed stage, you're looking at the founder and the idea. And as Ashneer also said, I bet very early stage and I bet on the founder. When you're moving from a seed stage to a little bit late stage angel, there you are starting to see the POC of the product. जो आप बना रहे हो वो बिक रहा है नहीं बिक रहा है कंज्यूमर को पसंद आ रहा है क्या कंज्यूमर उसके लिए पैसा देने को तैयार है प्रॉफिट बनेगा कि नहीं बनेगा ग्रॉस मार्जिन लेवल पे As you get to a Series A level, you are making sure that the founder fit and the go-to-market fit is settle ho rahi hai. Founder is able to grow, founder is able to hire the team, founder is able to get the leadership in, and then he's able to expand, right? So I would say very quickly these 3 or 4. But पैसा जब burn होता है वो गलतियों के लिए होता है. पता होना शुरू में कि क्या चलेगा, कैसे चलेगा, कौन चलाएगा, you don't need to burn anything, right? And many businesses are built like that. But पैसा गलतियों के लिए चाहिए होता है, वो गलतियाँ लगती हैं सीखने के लिए. So that's how we usually think from a seed to pre-series.
Well said, Vinay. I think that you put it in perspective. Moving on more towards to the mainstream and larger ticket size investment and late stage investment. Vageesh, I'll come to you. Partner Group has taken a controlling stake in many companies. I know you and Himanshu both are on the board of E-commerce Express also. So what has worked for you? What is your investment thesis in the current changing landscape? What excites you?
So I would say, thanks Shalabh. I would say the 2 broad buckets of themes that we are really excited about. Right? The first bucket is just explosion of consumption in the country. And I think several driving factors to that. The Honorable Minister talked about the mobile phone earlier. Aspirations have shot through the roof. Earlier, one would think that, look, our older generation was different in terms of consumption. The younger generation is driving consumption. But the mobile phone is actually a key contributor to the explosion of the economy. Aspirations are going up everywhere. Everyone wants aspirational products. The second big aspect to that is affordability. People like Meesho, people like Snapdeal, several businesses out there are making products that can meet these aspirations. They're managing to produce high quality, deliver high quality for all these customers who want products that they probably never knew about or even knew about they couldn't necessarily afford earlier. And the third is the general stability in the economy. There's obviously rising incomes, but people feel good about consumption when there's stability in the economy. And this is, in my view, giving rise to a massive ecosystem, not only brands, not only D2C, not only consumption, but you have logistics players, right? You need an ecosystem of delivery services to service these. There's an entire ecosystem of financial products, buy now, pay later. But there are several themes within mass market domestic consumption that we're really excited about and we are going after. The second one is just the shift of India as a hub from just being low-cost labor providers to providers of really high-quality products and services to the rest of the world. And this is a big shift. It's a transformational shift, but it's not happened overnight. It's still happening. But we're no longer just producing, I would say, low-price products just because of cheaper manpower. There's real innovation happening across products, technology, and that's a massive theme for us that we're going really hard after.
Yeah, thanks. And then you touched upon high-quality products for the global market, and I'll come to that more in subsequent questions, especially about the manufacturing sector. Remaining on the same page as late-stage investments, Himanshu, Warburg Pincus has had a very successful track record in the country, and we are seeing that urbanization and real growth in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities is a phenomena. How is that influencing your investment strategy? And is everybody chasing that, and how is Warburg Pincus chasing that or differentiating that?
So Shalabh, thanks for asking, and pardon my voice, it's a little under the weather, but I think it's a very relevant theme that we are seeing, especially in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. We are seeing that the quality of life is better. People have become more and more aspirational. They're looking for high quality but value for money products. And I think that plays quite well to some of the themes that we play. Look, we are thesis investors. Consumer, technology are some of the areas that we've been quite active in. We've played the shift from unorganized to organized in actually multiple facets of the industry. We've played this in jewelry. We've played that in fashion. We're playing that in actually building materials, as well as healthcare. Because people are looking for high quality healthcare in Tier 2, Tier 3 locations. I'll give you a couple of examples to bring it to life. Very recently, we invested in this company called WaterTech. So WaterTech is a polymer-based bath fittings. None of you would have probably heard about it because all of us are sitting in metros. They actually create plastic bathroom like taps and other things at 1/3, 1/4 the cost of a classic Jaguar. They're based in Coimbatore. serve only tier 2, tier 3 markets, and they're a phenomena. By virtue of their distribution strength and manufacturing, they've created that market. And we are seeing increasingly how people actually like affordable quality. So I think that's one example and we've played that theme very recently. The other example I'd say is on healthcare side. There's a company called MedPlus, which is basically pharmacy chain. They're opening 800 to 900 stores every year, but 60% of those are being opened in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And they again are seeing massive rise of incomes. People are looking after their health, especially post-COVID. And those again are items that are actually getting sold. So I'd say it's a phenomenal time to be looking at tier 2, tier 3 markets as an investing thesis. And we've been at least trying our level best to play to some of these themes.
Yeah, I know, and I remember Vikram was telling a lot of the startup screening that you are doing is also, a lot of it is coming from startups from tier 2, tier 3, and not everything is Bangalore as everybody thinks they are. Turning now to changing tracks, actually turning to Rakesh Singh. Rakesh, you may have missed, I attended Ashnil Grover's session earlier a little bit, and what he said was, जब company list होती है तो सारा किस्सा खत्म हो गया. मतलब सब everybody is, it's all about listing. तो वहाँ खेल खत्म. And a lot of the startups here, or even businesses, have ambitions to list. Some of it is to give early investors and exit investors like Vikram and Vinay. Some of it to actually genuinely tap the capital markets. And yet we have seen time and again, and I have seen it from our experience, Manoj has seen it, that if you list too soon, you may have problems. If you wait too long, you may have problems. What is the advice, Rakesh? And you have been a very seasoned and experienced investment banker. What are the prospects in the current market for listing, especially for these e-commerce and logistics type of companies? What advice can you give?
So, listing is like marriage with public markets, you know, and there's no right time or wrong time for doing it. However, basically when you're listing, you have to look at three key elements which you have to. Today, if you look at most startups, how you define your TAM, total addressable market, is a very, very important case in point. You can define a niche TAM, you can define a larger TAM, but have you defined the TAM? Because the market is looking at the total addressable market which you are chasing. And that is very, very key, because at the end of the day, a startup is expected to solve some unsolved problems till now. Or you are solving a problem in a more efficient way which has not been solved till now, both ways. So that is the first point of it. The second point when you come to is your model a sustainable model? Which means you have maybe a higher upfront investment cost, but a much lower variable cost at which you are implementing a business model. If you are not doing that and you are doing the same thing in a different way, then the market at some point can see through that this execution is not sustainable. A good case in point, very good case in point, is fintech lending. Okay, was no different than what banks were doing it, and you've seen that fintech lenders have had a huge backlash from investors, because the business model was all about, you know, subsidizing what they were doing. And the third point is, whatever you are doing, is there an opportunity for you to scale up in the market to actually meet that opportunity? Because proof of concept, some market tapping is fine, but when you have to scale up, will you be able to scale up, and what will be the opportunity for scaling up? So if these three elements are addressed, and you straight true to implementing a story in a public market, the market is always open for you. The issue is there is a problem and there is a solution. The beauty lies in a management team that executes relentlessly along the learning curve. The mention was there as a learning curve. Are you executing along the learning curve? So if you look at various companies which have promised, when you over-promise, under-deliver, then the market punishes you very harshly. And it should, because investors have the right to do it, because you're not hard-earned money is invested by public investors, they have the right to punish you. So it's very important that when you address these three issues, it is equally incumbent upon each founder and each management team to ensure that you don't over-promise and under-deliver. You better promise and better deliver.
Thank you, Rakesh. I'm sure these words of wisdom will be well received, especially also about the marriage timing that you mentioned. Coming to you, Manoj, and Manoj has held several leadership hats in many different capacities as an industry veteran as an investor, and also as a mentor to startups and all. But my first question to you, Manoj, is more related to your most recent appointment as chairman of a very exciting SaaS company called Unicommerce. We heard earlier in the day about ONDC and D2C, omni-channels and so on. Do you think the e-commerce democratization is actually now ready to take off? And what innovation and opportunities do you think should investors look at?
No, thank you. I would like to start from what was said earlier, never give up. I think we have a stage of life of this nation which is never give up stage. And I think time for India has come, and time for India consumption story has come. And there are a few factors, very critical factors, which are key drivers to this future story. Number one is that no other market in the world has stability. I think that stability is most important for growth. And I'm seeing Europe, I'm seeing US, I'm seeing so many parts of the world where instability continues. Number two, economic growth is driven by multiple sectors. It is not that one sector of manufacturing or of service or of agri. All sectors are driving it very hard. Number three, which is also very important, that all this transformation of India is led by technology. And not only digital technology, but many technologies. And you know, you're seeing this situation when smartphones are only 50% of India. There are another 600-700 million people who need smartphones as they get affordable. And the fourth driver, which is also very important, is that Indian products and Indian quality products, somebody said, quality products and Indian business models are most affordable in the world. So with all these things playing together, I think time has come for first all the 5,000 urban towns to get the power of this retail boom, the consumption boom. Because 5,000 towns are still not covered, let me tell you. We are talking of tier 2, tier 3, but still we have to go under.
And a large population is still not covered.
Large population. And out of 6 lakh villages, there are top 50,000 villages which are heavy population villages. And I'm very lucky and blessed to be a CEO who went to thousands and thousands of villages personally. And sat with panchayats, put a tower there, opened some shops. And I've seen so much hunger to utilize technology. And I don't know if people know, 2/3 of GPay transactions are in rural India. So this shows that I think all 5,000 towns are ready. Maybe the top 50,000 to 1 lakh villages are ready. So I think what we are heading for in the next 5-7 years is going to be a very major consumption revolution.
Thanks, Manoj. I'll stick with you, and now let me come to the jobs agenda, because for India to continue growing and for tier 2, tier 3 cities to continue growing and contributing to the consumption boom, it's important for people to earn money. And then therefore they will have disposable income, and therefore only they can consume. So I want to tackle that question by coming to 2 or 3 of you with different perspectives. First, a lot has been said about or written about manufacturing sector being key for sustaining the job growth. India announced and did the PLI scheme. A lot of people will admit that it's been a mixed bag, some successes, some not so good successes. What is your outlook on the manufacturing sector? You've seen it from different walks of life. And where do you think we can prioritize and where should we focus on? What is the outlook?
So let me first tell you the secret. Out of my 45 years work experience, 16 years, the first 16 years were in manufacturing. I have been a plant manager in India and outside India, and I love manufacturing. But somewhere 20 years back, I think manufacturing left India and left many parts of the world and went somewhere else. And we allowed it to go.
How can we bring it back?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that PLI is a very good trigger. It's a trigger.
Yeah.
Now, you can't say that every trigger should have 100% success.
That's true.
Maybe it's 80% success, maybe it's 90% success. It's a very, very important trigger and a symbolic message to the nation that we are serious about manufacturing. We want to get manufacturing to be more than 25% GDP of India. I think that's a very, very important thing. And we fell down actually to a very low level. Now, I feel from an employment point of view, service sector is doing well, agriculture employment is declining and will continue to decline, manufacturing will go up. So the biggest savior of India from employment point of view will be manufacturing.
Great.
And I believe that, yes, the plants which are coming up, and I have been involved in 2 plants, Ola Electric in the last 2-3 years, Ola Electric and Lenskart, 2 plants came up. And so many thousands and thousands of plants are coming up. They are automated. But still there's a lot of employment, direct and indirect, which is coming up.
And the supply chain.
And the supply chain behind it. So I believe that this is a golden opportunity. And next 10 to 20 years, this combo of physical infrastructure and manufacturing is the biggest combo of employment in the world. On infrastructure, we are spending about $1.4 trillion. And on manufacturing, I think we are spending, I don't have the figure, but a lot of private investment is coming up. So I believe together, they'll be the massive employment driver for engineers, for mechanics, technicians, and even semi-skilled workmen.
Great. Thank you, Manoj. And it would be great to see Warburg, Pincus, and partner, many other private equity funds put more money in manufacturing and greenfield manufacturing. I think that will test the rubber. But anyway, staying on the jobs agenda, Himanshu, how do you think investments in healthcare, education, and technology can contribute to it, to the economic development of the youth?
You know, I'd say a couple of numbers to what Manoj just added. The demographic dividend that people call, we have more than 600 million people who are below 25. This is sort of our moment in time in the world to go and capture. I'd say with that amount of people, they're looking for 3 things. I think 3 things are important. First is they need to get jobs. And I'll talk a little bit about jobs. They need to have high quality access to education and healthcare. And third, we need to spur this spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship. Those 3 things. I'd say at Warburg, I think, and investors in general, I think there is a unique chance to create domestic champions who can conquer the world. And I think those will largely come from manufacturing. I think there is, Vageesh spoke about it, we are not doing commodity value add. We are starting to do innovation-led manufacturing. We have to use low cost of labor as a strategic advantage to go and conquer. And within healthcare, for example, and I'll talk about healthcare and I can also talk about EMS. Within healthcare, we are seeing sizable scale capacities coming up, people deploying largely by virtue of PLI schemes in med devices, med techs. You'd see a lot of companies today having 10 to 15% of their exports, about 5 years back, starting to become 50% of their business is exports now. So there is already green shoots within the medtech space where manufacturing is coming to the fore. The second sector we are seeing is EMS. One of our portfolio companies, Boat, you would have seen those headphones. Yeah. You know, they have shifted their manufacturing, which was 80% in-sourced from China, to almost 90% now in India, largely thanks to the PLI schemes. And I think that has a ripple effect on creating jobs, but more importantly, stable supply chains. Yeah. And they can now work with stable partners like Ecom Express as they think about delivering products. This is one example, but there are multiple such D2C brands that could benefit from having a supply chain operator like Ecom Express partner with them. And frankly, that creates jobs. if you think about Ecom Express, they hire, Ajay said this earlier, you hire like a lakh people, 50,000 on board, but maybe a multiplier of that through other opportunities. So I think that all of that goes towards creating jobs and employment.
Yeah, you're right. And Ajay mentioned that he can absorb many, many more because the demand is so much. Let me come to the same jobs agenda from a third angle, which is the MSMEs. As all of you know that India has about 65 million MSMEs in the country, and it contributes in a big way to jobs. For them to keep contributing to jobs and income, they need access to credit. Fintechs is one way of getting it, many other ways for them to get it, democratizing credit. Last few days, fintechs have been a lot in the news because of the RBI announcements around Paytm, and today also there was some intent by RBI that they want to regulate Aadhaar-based payments, etc. I know, Vinay, you have invested, Vikram, I think you have also invested a lot into the fintechs. So do you remain bullish? What is your outlook on the fintechs? Are they going to contribute in a big way for credit for MSMEs, which in turn leads to jobs?
No, absolutely. I think going back when Ashneer was coming to funding to us and I cut one of the earliest angel investor checks to BharatPe, his pitch was very clear. मैं consumer के पास नहीं जा रहा हूँ, मैं MSME के पास जा रहा हूँ. मेरे को एक QR code जो है ना आपको as a consumer नहीं देना है.
Tell me one thing. He also said people thought BharatPe is a government company. Did you also think that when he came to you?
I have known him for 10 plus years, तो उसको जानता था मैं. तो we actually sat down and looked at the model.
Modi की company है, he said.
हाँ. So it was an MSME play, and it was then on top of it a lending play. After that, we did Card 91, we did many other fintech investments. I think most of them went very well. India में जैसे आपने बोला कि 65% of the economy is run at least by MSMEs, and that's why Mr. Modi recognized January 16th as a Startup India Day as well, right? And he recognizes that this is where the large power will come from. And India remains unbanked still. The problems of finance are of each one of us every day, whether you are the top SECA player or an SEC C player, right? So there's a huge amount of frequency, huge amount of problems, huge amount of opportunity therefore lies. So अलग-अलग problems हैं, अलग-अलग तरीके से solve होने वाली बाकी हैं. Having said that, we remain one of the best, most advanced UPI digital payments country globally. Right, so there's no dearth of problems here.
Vikram, do you want to offer a different
Yeah,
insight?
I just want to add to that. I think from a jobs perspective, since you mentioned fintech, I'll just give you one example. One of the biggest employer in fintech is, collections. So actually you have army of these people
a founder yesterday. He said कैंसर की ना जो दवाई होती है वो आपको 4-5 बार ट्राई करके पता चलती है कि कौन सी चलेगी, तब तक लेट हो जाते हैं. What if there is an AI tool which can tell you for this type of person, this gender, this origin, this kind of a treatment, this is the best medicine you can go for, and AI can tell you, you can save lives. And as Manoj said, India में सबसे ज़्यादा AI engineers हैं. They are the most valued talent in AI.
But tell me, let me counter that. Not everybody can become an AI engineer also easily,
Yes.
right? Are you saying there is zero threat to jobs, white collar jobs?
No. I am saying there is threat to jobs. No doubt. There will be some jobs that will go. Self-driving cars आएंगी तो शायद मेरे ड्राइवर की जॉब जाएगी. But क्या वो कुछ और सीख सकता है, कुछ और कर सकता है? Absolutely yes. Right? Maybe we'll create far more jobs. 2018 में हमने एक इन्वेस्टमेंट करी थी विशप करके. They were into personal assistants.
Yeah.
उन दोनों ना गूगल का पर्सनल असिस्टेंट आ रहा था, सीरी का पर्सनल असिस्टेंट आ रहा था और कई और पर्सनल असिस्टेंट्स आ रहे थे. तो लोगों ने बोला क्यों इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है? पर्सनल असिस्टेंट विल टेक द जॉब्स अवे. टुडे दे हैव ग्रोन, दे आर प्रॉफिटेबल, दे आर मेकिंग ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ मनी. उनके जो असिस्टेंट्स हैं ना वो एआई यूज़ करके उनको हेल्प कर रहे हैं जो एआई यूज़ नहीं कर सकते. Right? So think about it, how the word can be leveraged. It's your smartness how you leverage the tool to your advantage. Yeah.
Thank you. Himanshu.
You know, I'm a little more pessimistic than my.
Little more. Okay. Can you elaborate on little?
I'm a 6.
6, okay.
6.
Yeah.
I would have been a little more negative, but I'll tell you a use case that I used yesterday. But I do think for simpler jobs, it is indeed a threat. And if we have to leverage India's massive workforce as a key strategic advantage, there could potentially be some risks. I saw it in action yesterday. My 6-year daughter came to me and said, give me key facts about 9 planets. And it took me less than a minute to type it on generative AI and get the answer. Otherwise, I would have searched for like 10 minutes. But I'm not the only one. I'm sure this is happening across the board. I also feel we are overestimating the impact of AI. I think it's the most hyped word, as you said, Shalabh. But I've not seen a single job being lost till date. And it's been going on for the last 2 years. So I feel like this is running ahead of its time. The impact will not be as big.
Very interesting perspective, Himanshu. Vageesh?
Yeah, I would say the same. Look, for 5 years, my answer would be very different. But over a 10-year period, my view is it would be for an individual business or a sector, maybe a 3. But for an economy as a whole, if we do it correctly, could be an 8. And so my only advice is make sure as a business, you're not a part of that 3, right? Which is what we are doing for every single portfolio company, every single board. It is important to make sure you're allocating a part of your budget. It is overhyped, but pace of innovation changes at a point of time. And you have to make sure you're thinking ahead 5 years, 10 years, and allocating that budget to testing those use cases, even if they don't yield any money today. But there will be businesses that will disappear, there will be jobs that will disappear, and you have to make sure you're not one of those.
And that has happened even despite not having Gen AI. A lot of jobs have disappeared in the past also, right? So that's a great perspective. Rakesh?
5 in 5 years, 9 in 9 years. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing happened with self-driving cars. You know, when it came in, there was a lot of hype that, listen, everything is getting, you know, the computer vision is going to take over. You still say, you know, both Waymo and the other cars you see still in the Bay Area roaming around. But nothing has changed, you know, nothing has changed. Self-driving cars have only improved driving, have become more, contributing more to safer driving. So I think even AI will make it more easy to access information and analyze stuff and give it to you. But I'm sure when you want to reproduce, you will add something to it. So I think there's a way for both to coexist.
Great, great. Thank you so much. And I wonder whether there is a difference in opinion if you look at different age groups, because sometimes I talk to a lot of the youngsters and college goers and all, and they are more pessimistic on the impact than all of us. And anyway, but let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.